the original component that we've imported from Reloom has an image background with an overlay on top of it, but the actual design that we want to implement looks a little bit different. It's basically not a single image, although we can export this whole background as one single image. It's probably not a good practice because you can see that the layout needs to change dramatically for mobile. And so we want to bring in a layer, multiple images here. Perhaps we also want to animate them independently. And so let's see how we do that. We won't be able to use the same structure that Reloom brought us, but maybe we'll adapt it a little bit. And by the way, we have the same thing here in the event section where we have a few different images, and maybe we want, as we're scrolling, we want them to move in like a parallax effect. So that can be cool. So let's see how we're going to do that. So right here, first I want to review the structure. So we've got the main wrapper. Actually, we've got this section, unlike the other one, is called section header 5. So let's actually rename this section hero, and also has this text color white, although we don't need color white, we need a normal text here. So I'm just going to remove this combo class, and this section 5, let's rename this, let's call this section underscore hero. Okay, so inside we've got the padding global, which is where all of the content is inside the container, and then all of the content. And then we have this div, which is header background image wrap, which is basically set to absolute positioning on Z index of 0. So it's basically behind it. Okay, and inside here, we've got the overlay layer and then also the image. So we don't need the image. I'm going to delete that. We also don't need the overlay. We can actually go ahead. I actually want to show you two different ways to do it, an easy method and maybe a more powerful way of doing this. So the first thing that I can do is just use this absolute div and go here. Let's look at under background. First of all, change this color. I'm going to remove this color, and we can choose the basic color that we have here. Where's the background? Primary, right? This is the basic background that we have here. Now, by default, and we've already seen this, we can add images in here. So I can basically choose one of the images, and I've got the home images in here. So I can pick this one. I can, of course, select it to be smaller, like 20% or something like this. Make sure it's not tiling, and basically position it where I want to position it. So maybe here, or maybe I can move it up and resize it. And basically I can position it this way, right? Let's say this is the first image, and I can actually layer multiple images here. So I can add another one, choose this image. Let's see where it is here. It's in the corner. So let's also set this to maybe 40%, not tiling in the corner. And maybe I can switch the order so that this is behind this. Okay, so this is an easy way. As you can see, I can start layering up. So I have one div, but this one div has multiple background images that we can position however we want. And this is an easy way to layer multiple images. So again, very, very easy and simple to do with just one element. We can achieve this layout. The problem with this approach is that if I want to animate this, which I'm thinking about, I won't be able to select these separate elements because basically I can only animate this header div, and I don't have access to the background, to a specific background image within it. So that is where it's going to limit me. So let's forget about this approach, and let's use another approach which will enable me to then do other things if I want with the imagery. So I'm going to delete these background images, and inside here, inside of this background image, I'm just going to add an image, right? And let's select for the image, same image that we wanted before. And now we've got an image that we can just position however we want inside of this header background. So let's call this hero underscore image 1. And of course, I can go ahead and turn that positioning into an absolute position. I can also, of course, scale it. Don't remember if I wanted it to be like 30% or positioned somewhere in the bottom corner, or 20%, 20%. And I can start bringing in the images one by one this way. So let me copy this 4 times, let's say. I don't remember how many images I have here. I can actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so let's copy and paste this 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And for each one of them, let's not rename the class. Let's duplicate so that we have another class, because this way I can reposition each of them differently. Now this one is a different image. It's this one. Of course, I can change the other properties. Let's see what we have here. This one, let's duplicate this to image 3. And let's say this is going to be in the top left corner. Let's see what image we have in the top left corner. We've got this very light pattern. So it's this one probably. And probably want this to be bigger. So maybe 50% or maybe 40%. Okay. So you understand basically what I've done. I have each one of these as an absolute position inside the absolute position wrapper. Let's finish this. Here we've got this pattern that's going on in the background. It's this one. Let's just make sure that, where is it? It's too small, I guess. Let's change this to 50% or maybe 70%. And of course, I can change their stacking order either by using the Z index or just by who is rendering before or after. Maybe I'll do it this way. Yeah. Last one is this one. Duplicate class to image 5. And it's here in the top. So let's put this somewhere like this. Change the image to this pattern. Okay, we can go ahead and refine this, but basically each of them is positioned differently with absolute positioning. I can target each of them individually using animations, and this is a more powerful way to structure it. Now, because I have the exact same thing I want to do here in the event section, I can actually reuse this structure that I have here, but it'll probably be a good idea to change this from header 5 background image wrapper into, let's rename this. If we're going to use it, let's make sure that it's meaningful. Let's call this absolute underscore BG. So we know this is just holds background images. I can copy this, and now let's go here into the event section, and let's paste this outside of the padding global inside here. And of course, want to make sure that the section is then relative because we have these absolute positioning relative to its parent element. And the last thing that we have here is that we can't seem to see the content. It seems like padding and everything that is inside is behind this absolute positioning, although this is Z index of 0. So let's try to add a class here that is going to make sure that everything that is inside this padding global has a higher Z index. Now, this is also one of the powerful things about already working with a style guide. If I'm just going to write Z index, you can see here that I already have pre-made classes with Z index 1 and 2. And so this is really great. This is now just applied Z index of 2, basically by turning this into a relative with Z index of 2. So the content is now on the top. Now, of course, I should probably go ahead and replace these images with the right images and make sure that they are positioned in the right way. But you've seen how we basically created a way with the absolute position wrapper to hold these absolute position images and use them as backgrounds for whatever section that we have. So let's try this. Let's duplicate this class. Let's call this event BG1. And here we have, let's say, this yellowy image. And we're going to pick that, make sure that it is positioned at the top corner. This is great. And then duplicate this 2 more times. Duplicate this one as event BG2. That is going to be at the bottom right corner, which is the green one, green element. And the last one, let's duplicate the class, event background 3. That should be the image, the red image, and centered on the left. So let's go into the settings, select it, and yes, maybe 40% from the top or something like this. It's a little too big. I guess this image, we should probably make sure that it's set to high definition, and it's still very big. Okay, because it's got this width of 30%, but actually we most likely want it to be this way. Okay, fantastic. So now we've got the custom background images, not fully sized correctly, but lined up correctly, and the ones in the event section. Fantastic.